Welcome to the 2022 Texas BMX Hall of Fame ceremony. My name is Scott Fennell. It's an honor to be with you tonight. Tonight marks our 11th year at this function. Before we get started, I want to open in prayer. If that's your thing, it's my thing. So if you'll bow your heads with me. Father God, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to come together and rekindle old friendships. Just sit and talk and laugh. In a time where things are just difficult, laughter always seems to be the best medicine. We pray for those that could not make it tonight. We will celebrate their victories here together and raise a glass for each one of them. Father God, thank you again for all the blessings that you've blessed each and every person in this room. And thank you for the ones that they don't even know about yet. We ask that you continue to guide us, give us direction, give us the ability to lead with conviction. Father, we thank you for all these blessings. We ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Over the last decade, we've lost, it's been a little longer than that, but tonight we want to acknowledge those in memory that made such a solid contribution to the sport of BMX. Kyle Bennett, Leland Hill, Craig Marsh, Kyle Hammock, Brad Fennell, and Ryan Sheehan. Let's give them a round of applause. The Texas BMX Hall of Fame's mission statement is to document the history of the sport of bicycle motocross racing in the great state of Texas, to recognize the accomplishments of Texas BMX racers on the local, regional, state, and national levels, and to promote the continued success of the sport of BMX and the racing in the great state of Texas. Certainly a bold statement, right? But it's carefully watched, guarded, tallied over the years through our board members. And so I'd like to introduce some of the original gangsters right here. Gene Roden from the Amarillo region, Mark Summers from Dallas, Bernie Anderson from San Antonio, Mike Mayberry from Lufkin, Porter Gibbons out of Fort Worth, Donnie Miller from Austin, and Mr. Dean Hickey out of the Dallas region. These are the original members that created this. The OG table is located in the back and off to my left over here, so make sure you get her over there and visit with them before tonight's over with. Our Hall of Fame leaderboard, your current board members tonight, and I'm going to acknowledge them. Would you raise your hand or please stand up? Patty Gamma Holcomb, Patty, off to the left right there. Rusty Roberts. Your president, Mr. Jeff Osmus. The Commander Cody Smart, and Kent Sneed. Thank you, Kent. The rest of this is a long list of people that grew up in the sport of BMX and that later, after they've retired, have decided to make a significant contribution by volunteering their time. I'd like to introduce some very good friends of mine out of Pflugerville, Texas. Would you please welcome Bob and Michelle Sheehan.
We're going to give you the long and short of the story here. Welcome to all the BMX Hall of Famers, their families and friends who are in attendance at this super venue this evening. It's great to look and see all the old faces and bring back the good memories of over 25 years. Old faces, well that's me, of BMX. Again, we're Bob and Michelle Sheehan, formerly of S&S Racing. The Sheehan family is honored to be able to participate with the Hall of Fame board in making and promoting BMX to be the great sport that it is, and giving us the opportunity to honor the memory of our son, Ryan Sheehan. The Ryan Sheehan Spirit Award is dedicated to the hardworking track operators and many volunteers that make BMX the successful sport it is in the state of Texas. And we'd also like to give a special thanks and appreciation to Mr. Bernie Anderson, the individual that we feel is the cornerstone of BMX in this state. This year, we would like to honor the following inductees or awardees of the Ryan Sheehan Spirit Award. If you're in the room, please stand. Hold any applause until we complete the list.
Okay. Capital City BMX, we have the Kate family. Cowtown BMX, we have Donnie Drury. Desert Downs, we have Paige Zachary. DeSoto BMX, we have Rob Dorlat. We have Lone Star BMX, Tyler Young. Pearland BMX, Matt Carlisle. Rockstar BMX, we have Jennifer and Matthew Stewart. Sun City BMX, we have Maricela and Mike Scott. Wichita BMX, we have Anthony Danatello. In West Texas BMX, we have Wyatt Valencia.
We thank you all for letting us honor these winners of the award. And in closing, we'd like to post a phone number, which we would ask that you keep in your cell phone to use or give to any individual you might think could use the number to obtain help for depression. The American Foundation of Suicide has a vast resources to help people in those situations. We have found over the years that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So please, if anyone or anyone you know has any thoughts in that direction, there's help out there for all of you. Thank you, and have a good evening.
I was thinking on the drive down here, I was thinking about Ryan and Brad among the other riders, and I was just, and I know Ryan's looking down on us today, but he would just be so blown away by what's been accomplished over the last 11 years with the Ryan Sheehan Spirit Award. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you for instilling that award with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Pennington.
All right.
Speaking into this thing right here, is this how this works?
Yes, sir.
Public speaking is not my foray. I'm honored and privileged to be here tonight to share with you the history of BMX in San Antonio. I also like to say congratulations to all of this year's Hall of Fame inductees. The history of BMX started in many neighborhoods across the great city of San Antonio. Growing up in the early to mid 70s, we were free range kids back then. Basically, when we went to school, we got home, we changed our clothes, and we were told to either do our homework or get outside. Some of us did one or the other, and some of us did both. But long story short, we spent an awful lot of time outdoors. Bicycles back then were actually part of our social life. We would ride throughout the neighborhood. We would meet kids in other neighborhoods. The neighborhood that we grew up in, we had an awful lot of kids in our neighborhood, and we all rode bikes as part of our social life. We raced around the streets, popping wheelies, skidding tires, and riding off curbs all over the place. This was done on what bikes were then called as 20-inch high-rise bikes. The BMX bike really hadn't even been invented as at that point in time. As we started getting older and started venturing outside of the neighborhood, we started finding trails throughout different neighborhoods and in the woods. And we found them in vacant parcels of land. These trails were made by guys riding motocross motorcycles or even mini bikes back then, which was a real popular activity for a lot of kids. These were places where we would meet up with kids from other neighborhoods doing the same thing around their neighborhoods with their bicycles. So the trail system became kind of a gathering place. We were influenced by what the older kids were doing on their motorcycles. We were enamored of watching the occasional outdoor motocross motorcycle race on ABC's Wide World of Sports on TV on Saturday afternoons. As we got a little older, we all started getting braver on our bikes by building dirt jumps and wooden ramps. Early in around 1974, one kid down the street named Doug McGuff showed everyone a magazine he picked up called Mini Cycle Action Magazine. This particular issue had a big article on other kids doing the same thing on their bicycles out in the state of California. Doug started buying the magazine every month. Every month the magazine had more coverage on what would then become known as BMX racing. The kids in California had it going on, and we wanted to be part of that action. By this time, bicycle shops started stocking some of the things that we were seeing in this particular magazine, like waffle grips, number plates, plastic fenders, motorcycle-style handlebars, and knobby tires. These were things that turned your high-rise bike into what's known today as a BMX bicycle. Within a short period of time, we all started tricking out our bikes. We learned how to work on our bikes, and we were constantly looking for new places to ride. We learned from the older kids that the guys that were racing their motorcycles were doing it on the south side of the town at a place called Cycle-Rama. And there's a handful of us in here tonight that remember that track well. They raced their motorcycles there on Saturday afternoon. We convinced Doug's dad, Howard, to take us out to one of the motocross races so we could watch what those guys were doing with the motorcycles. While we were at the races, Doug and I were both thinking the same thing. Why could we not race our bicycles on part of this motocross track just like the kids out in California were doing? The conversation on the way home was filled with a lot of ideas. We saw tracks popping up all over California in the magazines and thought this is something that maybe we should try to get going ourselves. Doug was 13 and I was 12. We got busy the following week. We found out the owner's name of Cycle-Rama was a gentleman named Walt Sandifer. We called him and told him of our ideas, and he was actually interested. So we set up a meeting with him at his office on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. We were really hoping that he would let us use part of his motorcycle track to hold some BMX races. The meeting went real well. We left there happy and excited. Rather than have us race on a part of the motocross track, he decided that we could actually use about 3 acres of land adjacent to his property so we could build our own BMX track. He didn't want any money or anything. He just thought it was cool that a bunch of kids wanted to get a BMX track started. We could race there on Saturday mornings before the motocross guys would show up with their motorcycles. My parents and Doug's parents were both very supportive of this endeavor and provided lots of help. It took us several Saturdays of digging with shovels, raking, moving dirt around to create the track. Flyers were printed off and handed out to the local bicycle and motorcycle shops to get the word out of the opening of Cycle-Rama BMX Raceway. The first race was obviously on a Saturday. We charged $2 to race and handed out some trophies on occasion, and usually second and third place I think ended up getting most of the ribbons. The first race drew 30 riders. My dad would pile me and my brothers as well as a bunch of neighborhood kids into the back of his truck and take them out to the races. The classes back then were run by age, and we used a rubber band for the starting line. It was the first BMX track in San Antonio. During the existence of Cycle-Rama, the local Schwinn dealer saw the potential of BMX racing and put on events at Almas Park here in San Antonio. This track ran 2 or 3 times throughout the course of about a year and a half. The shop used the event to pick out riders for their shop-sponsored team. By now, BMX was not only growing on a local level, but it was growing on a national level as well, and Bike Shop knew it was time to promote BMX. Early in 1976 or 1977, the Corrales family moved to San Antonio from California. They started a track on the south side of town called MC's Bike World. They brought with them knowledge gained from the California scene, as their kids were heavy into BMX racing back home in California. This is a track that raced on Sundays. It had a big, huge starting hill with a manual wooden gate, and it featured big berms and large jumps. This track probably drew around 100 riders for a while. Bike shops like Bike Barn, B&J Bike Shop, and Alamo Heights Schwinn now had teams with kids in jerseys. The sport was starting to grow at a pretty fast pace. The Cycle-Rama was closed as this new track came to town, as it was actually being run as a true business. Corrales family worked very hard to make this track a success. In 1978, after realizing that the south side of town was a deterrent for growth, they then opened MC's north side. This particular track was located on the north side of town, in behind what was known then as the San Francisco Steakhouse. Simultaneously, the track also became a member of what was known then as the American Bicycle Association, which we all know is called US BMX. We now had novice and expert classes and were racing for points in District 4. San Antonio and Austin were basically part of District 4 back then. It was the inception of racing for the #1 plate in the district. Austin had a track that was running at the VFW Hall on Breaker Lane that was also an ABA track as well. Texas 4 would become the district for San Antonio and Austin at the same time. Tracks all over Texas were popping up and several districts became a reality. The North Side Track MC's Bike World showed the true potential that was there for BMX racing to be a legitimate enterprise for somebody who was interested in promotion and growth. In February of 1980, Lone Star BMX was opened off San Pedro Avenue. Bernie Anderson and some of his business people turned up to bring the highest level of professionalism to a BMX track that San Antonio had yet seen. Lone Star BMX track became a legendary track in the state of Texas. It was also an ABA sanctioned track. It started off by racing Sunday afternoons, but quickly went to running on Saturday nights. An electric starting gate, bathrooms, and a real concession stand were part of the amenities that this track offered. Tuesday night was practice nights where it was always fun to go out there, and I think you paid $1 or $2 to get in the gate, and you got to ride on the track and try to hone in on your skills. This was also the first track to bring professionals from around the country and was responsible for bringing professional BMX racing to San Antonio on a weekly event. Cibolo Valley BMX was also opened in late 1981. It was located in Schertz, Texas, and it ran on Friday nights. This allowed for racing in San Antonio on both Friday and Saturday nights, which was good for points chasing locally. Hidden Valley was a track that opened in, I believe it was like late 1982. It was on the south side of town. It featured a really fast, large, more of a downhill type course that was really fun to race on. Hidden Valley raced on Saturday afternoons. River City BMX was opened in 1982. It ran in conjunction with Lone Star BMX, which was about to lose its lease before the 1983 season. It was located off Nacogdoches Road, and it became a track that I believe stuck around for about 3 or 4 years before it finally had to move out of town. So most of my BMX experience was from the really early years up to about 1985, and after that I really don't have a whole lot of information about some of the other tracks that is open. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on how BMX started in San Antonio and how it's just continued to grow every year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd.
Yes, sir.
That was great information.
Thank you.
Just look at this, the flat turn with the tires. That was racing.
I'm pretty sure that Chevy is my dad's truck.
Is that the square body? Square body? Chevy, the mustard orange van. Who is that? Is that yours, BR? Was that your mustard orange van?
No,
74 is me.
That's the steakhouse in the background.
Yeah, that number 74 is me.
Number 74 is you. That's awesome. So
I was skinnier then.
I was skinnier. What I see on there is you guys had some pretty sophisticated BMX bikes in that race right there.
That was
I remember it being wicked cold at that track.
Well, I could tell by the Adidas
Yeah.
tennis shoes.
I specifically like the bell bottoms.
The bell bottoms. Well, this guy's tucked them in his red striped socks. I don't think you'll see a tire on a BMX track in modern day times, but I remember putting them out there. I remember going out there at Cowtown and flipping the tires over so the mosquitoes wouldn't be at the track. Yeah. Boy, times have changed. And then I guess that's a wooden gate up there, and the starter pulled it up and then kicked the gate down with his hands.
That's the riders ready, pedals ready, go.
That's that guy, right? Do you remember that guy's name?
Don't remember that guy's name, but I raced at that
He
track.
would have won the Ryan Sheehan Spirit Award, I can guarantee you that much, because it was cold and he was laying on the ground.
Not to mention that, those starters always meant business too.
Well, who was it?
That's old man Corrales.
Oh.
That's the granddad.
That's right, huh? Sure is.
The husband and wife ran the track. but
Out of a van.
Was the starter.
Let's get Grandpa to run the gate.
And out of a van.
Out of a van.
Out of a van. They literally had their PA system in the van.
Hey Scott, that was feet on the gate with an axe handle.
Feet on the gate with an axe handle.
Yep.
And you just let go.
Yep.
Hey, the pioneers of the sport of BMX in San Antonio, give them a round of applause, especially the gate starter. I did some research on our next recipient and found out that at one point in time, Mr. Gary Elmore ran both Metroplex BMX and Cowtown at one point in time. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, sir? Where is Gary at? There you go. I was in the elevator with him earlier today. What a tremendous contribution this man made. And as a track operator, if there's track operators in the room, I've felt your pain. I have scraped the track back together after the Texas weather has basically washed our entire track down the Trinity River. I did that a few times, watched my parents throw shovels at each other. It's a healthy fight, right? Most of you remember Debbie. The shovel's pretty much bigger than her, but she did launch it at my dad across the starting hill one day and said, "You scrape this, I'm doing the concession stand." Mr. Elmore made a significant contribution in the sport of BMX in the DFW area by operating both tracks at the same time, stepped up and did an amazing job. Tonight we honor him and welcome him into the Texas BMX Hall of Fame for this 2022 year. Would you please welcome our first recipient tonight, Mr. Gary Elmore.
I look around here and a lot of Hall of Fame people on for me, especially riders. I'm not a racer or a rider, so I feel humbled to be a part of this. Such an honor. I never did any of it for an award. I did it all for the smiles and the families. They told me I only got 10 minutes up there, so and actually I had this whole thing full. And now I wear glasses too, and unfortunately, with tears in my eyes. These glasses are not working very well. So, really, I want to thank everybody, all the families. It's an honor. The fact to serve the families and to meet the families. I got to host and ride the Texas State Championships. Been the #1 track in the state of Texas for like 17 times in 20 years. 15 times, I think, #1 track in the Central East. So that's half the country. I'm gonna back up a little bit and say that, I didn't do this by myself. I had many, many people that volunteered their time. Yeah, I got to be an official at the first USA cycling, or the first US Olympic trials in 2008 to determine what riders we had that went to the Olympics. So that's such an experience. I got to travel and have been honored here in to travel all over the United States and be, an official, track official at many nationals, I can't count them all. Also, there's so many riders that you get to meet. And some of them touch you. Some of the families touch you more than others because you just get to know them better. There's a couple of them I'd like to mention. We talk volunteers, so Tyson Spoon, Jim Spoon, Kathy Jan, Kathy Dunn, Liz Serrano, Donata Allen, Janet Baker, Sissy Dodley, Casey and Chris Allen. I can't go, there's so many. Without all of them, there wouldn't be a Cowtown BMX continuing to run. There wouldn't have been the Metroplex BMX, there wouldn't have been the track it was, there wouldn't have been it was then. There's many more. Thank y'all all very, very much, and I'm gonna get out of here. I'll embarrass myself in a minute.
Can I get a towel up here, please? Can't see anything. Gary, thank you for all of your hard work and dedication, sir. You definitely made an impact on BMX. There's nothing I can't tell you that you don't already know. But it was brought to my attention earlier this evening that the only reason that BR, Big BR and Bigger BR ever went to the track was because of the little brother. Found out about a race at the track in 1977. I did not know that. What an impact that he made on that family. Bernard Anderson spent 11 days last summer in Rock Hill, South Carolina, watching the world's best bicycle motocross riders race over hilly tracks at speeds that make cheetahs look like they're moving backwards. While these racers were competing for trophies, you can bet many of them were dreaming about winning an Olympic gold. B.A. Anderson in 1993 became the Chief Executive Officer of USA BMX and serves as the BMX Committee representative on the Team USA Cycling Board of Directors. Though he won't be selecting who goes to Tokyo to compete in the 2020 Summer Olympics, his Arizona-based organization provides the facilities on which American cycling athletes train. It was a vision that this young man had in his head back in 1993. As the story goes on, you can follow with me. USA BMX, formerly known as the American Bicycle Association, has more than 70,000 members and oversees 380 tracks in North America alone. In 2003, BMX racing became a sanctioned Olympic sport. Thank you, sir. BMX racing has evolved over the years, especially at the track level. Previously, the 1,100-foot track had 3 turns, no berms, 1 major bump, and 1 major jump hill. Today, the track has berms, steep turns, concrete, asphalt, no tires, 40 to 50 smaller jumps, and if you're ever standing next to one of those tracks over in California or in downtown Houston, you'll see a starting hill that towers 4.5 stories. Anderson has been racing since he was 6 years old. When I was a kid, quote, I told my dad I wanted a motorcycle. He said, "No way am I buying you a motorcycle." Anderson says with a laugh, in 1975, I was watching a kids program and I saw BMX and said, "Dad, I want to race BMX." He handed me the yellow pages and said, "Figure it out where you can race." Like every good father should. Figure it out on your own. A local Schwinn bicycle store sponsored yearly races. Yearly races. Can you imagine? And Anderson began riding his bicycle over dirt hills in the nearby field. The feel of sending his two-wheeler into the air was exhilarating. Racing was in my blood, he says. Both my parents were drag racers in San Antonio. Wow. My father, Bernie, was an entrepreneur, and in 1978, he opened up Lone Star BMX. He later owned 6 tracks in the area. The American Bicycle Association was founded in 1977 in Chandler, Arizona. Bernie Anderson bought the organization in 1985 and initiated his son that the teenager might someday head the group. What a vision. But there was one stipulation. He thought he needed a college degree. Anderson says, so I enrolled at Texas State. My kids are at Texas State. And what I learned about business and creating a marketing plan I can carry with me today. I learned how to launch a brand and carry that information directly into my business. Texas State also provided him with a great bicycling partner, his wife, Amy, who majored in psychology. That's how she handles this. The couple has 2 children, sons Gavin and Shane. Another bobcat in the family is Anderson's sister, Debbie Baldwin, who graduated in 1977 with a bachelor's in education. In addition to his duties at USA BMX, Anderson serves as chairman of the board for the USA BMX Foundation, which manages the National BMX Hall of Fame, the USA BMX Race for Life, and the Bob Warnicki Memorial Scholarship. The Race for Life donates more than $250,000 a year to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society of America. The Race for Life was started in 1979 by the son of a BMX track operator in Michigan. He was a 10-year-old kid who told his father he wanted to do a fundraiser for other kids like him who had leukemia, Anderson says. The BMX sanctioning body took the fundraiser nationwide. The Warnicki Memorial Scholarship was named for a former USA BMX marketing manager who died from leukemia at the age of 48. In 2016, the scholarship program awarded $47,500 to 78 students with BMX backgrounds. Though Anderson doesn't race as often as he did when he was a child, because I think they put it in his contract clause because he can't ride a bicycle or do anything else fun. He tries to make USA BMX as kid-friendly as possible. I never forget how infatuated and excited I was for the first time I went to the American Bicycle Association office as a young racer. Me too, brother. He says, I'll try to instill the same feeling in the office today. There are lots of memorabilia on the walls. Like Mr. Elmore said a moment ago, the best part about attending a BMX race is handing a 5-year-old their very first trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, won't you please welcome B.A. Anderson.
Sorry, I brought some props up with me too, so. It is such an honor to be here tonight. I just want to thank the Texas BMX Hall of Fame for this recognition. I feel like I have a long way to go, and thank you for the Lifetime Achievement Award, but there's a lot more to come. So I think that's how I was going to finish, but I'm actually jumping ahead a little bit here. So, like Gary said, I'm not much of a public speaker either, unless it's, you know, with a win and only a win, or, you know, everybody form a single file line, get your membership out, have your payment ready, whatever, you know, the funny things of running events. But so my first race, Scott touched on it, Todd touched on it. So we were at Almas Park, our first race, and it did involve the Yellow Pages. It was a kids timeout video, which I didn't realize at the time was actually Eric Root, which I learned that at the 1985 Hall of Fame, when he was accepting his award, that Eric was on a show called Kids Time Out. So that's the show that I actually witnessed or saw on TV that said, hey Dad, I want to go race my bike. So we were already, jumping our bikes in the front yard and doing all of that stuff, but ultimately he handed me the yellow pages and said, figure it out. So that's what I did. I started calling the bike shops as a 5 or 6 year old. Can I ride a bike? So luckily the Schwinn shop, they so we have a race the first Saturday of every November. So this was first Saturday of every October. So this is like October, I'm getting the months. First Saturday of October, I'm calling in November. This is November of '76. I'm like, oh great, so I missed it by a month. So we literally waited a whole year for our first race. And we were tearing up the front yard. We had a huge jump, I think we had half a door set up on a curb. And we were flying down the hill, seeing if we could jump across our front yard. And we did that during 1976, waiting for our first race. We showed up at the first race. Everybody was by age groups. I think I was sponsored by Bull Moose Restaurant, because I think Dad and I, we were all at dinner one night after a Spurs game, and Dad convinced the manager that he needed to sponsor my $2 entry fee and BR's $2 entry fee for that race, and we needed a jersey. So we raced in a Bull Moose t-shirt for that first race. So we broke our bike that first race, first moto, I think BR broke it actually, I don't know what it was, but the forks broke. So we were done for the day. Dad's loading the bikes up in the car, and we're headed home. And one of the biggest reasons we're actually even here today is a person in this room actually showed up, came to the car as we're loading our bikes up and said, hey, where are you guys going? Don't leave yet, the race isn't over. And said, here, you can borrow my bike. So Gerald Mendez, sitting right here at the table, was the one that loaned us our first bike to continue racing. So if it weren't for Gerald, we probably, we would have been playing baseball or football, and I would have been done a lot sooner. So at that time, Gerald loaned us the bike. He also told us about Cycle-Rama. So that's when we discovered Cycle-Rama. We ended up at Cycle-Rama that next Saturday, and we raced there for a couple of weeks. And it wasn't long after that that MC's Southside opened up, and we started racing out there. So at the time, it was me and Jimmy Chankin. He's here tonight too. Best friends from like kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So when I started racing, obviously I was bringing Jimmy. We were going to go race. So we started going to the track, and it was ultimately our moms that were taking us. My mom was taking us out there all the time. We had a motorhome because we traveled fishing and hunting all the time. So Dad would take the motorhome out to the track. Mom was the epitome of a BMX mom. And Dad was sitting in the car, or sitting in the motorhome, believe it or not, watching a football game in like '77. I don't know, how did you do that, Dad? But maybe that's just my memory. But anyway, he was in the motorhome during the races a lot of the time for our first year or two. And it wasn't until Mr. Corrales, and I think I raced Mikey. That's who I raced. I don't know, Billy. Mikey was the middle one, I believe. So we always battled it out. Anyway, I was disqualified, and Mom proceeded to tell Mr. Corrales why he was wrong, why I should not be disqualified. And arguments ensued, and now Dad gets out of the car. So that's when Dad started his career in BMX racing. Was screw you, I'll start my own. I think was the comment. But it was ultimately at that time that Dad got fully involved in racing. And sorry, I'm gonna skip ahead here because I could talk about our first races all day long. But that first race, like I said, Gerald Mendez, we would have never continued on. Alan Zuhl, Doug McGuff, Riley Galloway, Steve Black, Rusty Watson, Danny Baber, Larry Bleekman. Obviously Todd, John, and Scott Pennington were staples at the very beginning. Our first sponsor, Will Bellamy, Bike Barn, yeah. And I was just asking Toby this name, but Bill Miller, he was the Raleigh rep.
Jimmy Mueller.
Jim Mueller, okay, there it is. So he was the one that gave us our first frame at the bike park. It was actually a Race Inc. with a Rampart sticker. I think every Race Inc. had a different name at some point. But those were the people that were at our first race, which is amazing. But actually, I'm not even here for racing. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award. I kind of stunk a lot of the time, racing-wise. But my competitors, I mean, obviously Jimmy Chinkin, Ricky Davis, Craig Marsh, Guy Hipsher, Jeff Fernald, Keith Smith, Harry Sutherland, Tommy Smith. That's an old one. Obviously Brock Bruce, Trey Brannon, now we're getting out of town, Stanislav Lai, Steve Beltman, and Billy Patterson every now and then in Open. I think we were racing each other. Another friend of mine, Steve Leniger, actually started racing with us back in the day. But I mean, kind of the funny part of that was that I ended up becoming Factory Blazer. My claim to fame was I beat Kyle Fleming and Doug Davis out of the first turn. And I was kind of famous. This was at the 78 Grand Nationals.
79 Las Vegas.
In
79 Grands. So I beat him out of the first turn and then proceeded to do what I always do, slip a pedal. And got like 7th or 8th, which was kind of normal for the Nationals. But anyway, Mike Mayberry, he's not here tonight, but Mike actually witnessed that race, and apparently I impressed him enough, so I became Factory Blazer at that time. So ultimately, I was Factory Blazer for a long time. I think the year that I was 11, 79 or 80, we raced 8 or 10 Nationals. I made every main event at the National for that whole year. Made all the mains, but never got a trophy. I was 6th, 7th, and 8th. I feel like you guys are feeling sorry for me. No, but anyway. So I was always 6th, 7th, or 8th, but I was like I was like the nag 9, 10 rider, 11. But what I'm getting at is I was never as good or famous at racing as I thought I was. And is Shane Hill here tonight?
He's not.
Okay, well now I'm bummed because I brought this plate. Because this is the second number plate I've received as a gift, as my Factory Blazer number 6. So, I wish Shane were here tonight, because the funny part is, this is not my plate. This is Shane Hill. He was a Blazer rider number 6. So I planned on giving this to Shane tonight. So anyway, because everybody sees the Blazer number 6 and they think it was me, but it was actually Shane, so I ended up, somebody giving me a gift with number Blazer. Anyway, sorry,
You're
Shane.
number 7.
Well, somebody can take that back to Shane.
You're number 7.
Yeah, I was number 7.
Forever number 7.
Yes, and that is my number. So, anyway, enough with the racing. Like I said, it was, it's my history, my past, and what's gave me the passion to continue on and grow this sport and do everything I've done, but it was not the racing that what I'm being recognized for. You guys are the Hall of Fame members that killed it on the track, and I looked up to as a kid too. So without you guys, I wouldn't be here either. So thank you guys for that. So I'm going to move on to some of our current stuff. Sorry, I'm not going to read all this stuff. Don't worry. So ultimately, the early years of racing were amazing. I knew at a very young age that I wanted to do this the rest of my life, and like really young age. So I mean, as Dad bought the ABA in 1985, at the time I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. But in 6th grade, so the first photo I ever had in a yearbook in 6th grade was me, Larry Bleekman, Lee Baber, was Danny there? I don't know, we were in the yearbook and we were the BMX kids. So all of a sudden, as we all were, you know, the BMX kids kind of become the cooler kids at school, which was awesome. But for me, that was the time when I realized how cool my parents were. Because they were running the track, and I was the track operator's kid, which you know, it was the coolest thing ever because we could ride whenever we wanted, do whatever, you know, out of the track. But Dad, Mom, thank you for everything you did to continue that track and get it started. So obviously I would not be here if it were not for them, for multiple reasons. But I feel like ultimately this is their award. I mean, this is a lifetime achievement, but I could have never done any of this without your guys' guidance and putting, just making it available and putting us in this position to be able to do it and training us to actually do it and do it the right way. So, but ultimately, Dad's never come up here and told his story, so I'm going to tell his story a little bit. So Dad actually came to San Antonio, Texas in 1951 from West Virginia. So he showed up here just on a whim because him and his buddy had an uncle, or his buddy had an uncle that sold magazines here. And they decided to pool their money together, get enough money to drive to San Antonio to go sell magazines. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm not starting the whole, but he showed up in 1951 with 19 cents in his pocket in Houston, Texas. So his entire business career started with 19 cents, which is amazing. So they showed up at the guy's uncle's house. He said, "You got 3 days. You can stay here 3 days, make your money. You need to go." So 19 cents and 3 days worth of selling, and he was able to get all the way to here. So it's amazing, Dad, of what you've accomplished in your lifetime. He was national sales manager for Look magazine, which, Look magazine way back was one of those big Time Life magazines. So he knocked on doors selling magazines for years and years and years. He ended up with several different magazine franchises. The last magazine franchise, ironically, that he owned was right on top of the MC's North Side track. So the MC's North Side track where we all raced, there was a building eventually built exactly on top of that track. And that's where Dad's offices were the day that he bought the ABA, which is kind of ironic. But thank you, Dad, for everything. And my mom, she deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as much as, more than I do. She drove us, like I said, she was driving us to the track when we first started, but once we started traveling all over the country, she was driving all over the country as well, driving the motorhome. So, I mean, she was getting the motorhome stuck in fields, driving all over the place. She kept track of everything. Sorry, I brought my props to show you guys, but it is unbelievable the amount of history that my mom has. And it's my history, not that it means anything to anybody, but it means it to me, and I appreciate it, Mom. But I know every time that I got second to Jimmy, or Ricky, or whoever, but it's all in these books. I have everybody I raced, I have the number of points I earned, everything. I mean, from every single race. So thank you for that, Mom. The history of the I'm not going to pull everything out of this envelope, but this says on July 1980. So I have an envelope for every month that we raced, and it's every photo that was taken that month from every track. I have every receipt from every hotel we stayed at, every pin we bought. I have every old flyer that you could imagine. So where were we going here?
Red Light Tour?
Tex, Peyton's BMX, first annual West Tex BMX Championship, Roadrunner BMX. So I got the flyer, we got everything. So every month that we race, I have a documented history oh, sorry. And this is the last thing on this, but multiple paths. Like Lone Star BMX, July 2nd, 1980, 12X, 5th place, 5th place. 6 riders in the class, I got 16 points. But it's every page, or every race we ever had. So, Mom, thank you for everything. You deserve to be here. Absolutely. Really welcome. So I'm gonna skip over all these stories. I'm just gonna go through the bullet points. But Amarillo Fire, Gene, that was not us. Circus elevator and slots. So those were grands. We may have used the elevator as a starting gate. We may have played some slots as a 12-year-old.
I was there, we did.
Yeah. I apologize to Warren Barry, nobody knows him, but we tied him up and threw the rope out the window of the motorhome.
He peed in the.
Yeah. My mom pulled over because it was a rope. I'm like, it's fine.
Peed in the bed.
Yeah. Billy remembers this. We may have been mooning people out of the back of the motorhome, and people were honking it. It was Billy, it wasn't me. And Mom was, had to pull over to find out what was wrong with the motorhome. But it was
We parked in somebody's front yard.
Yeah,
We stopped over the middle of the night and parked in somebody's front yard.
Yep. So holodomes, those were just the barrel of fun. Make some jumps into the pool and all that stuff. Somebody reminded me of a Hoover Dam story the other night, but I probably shouldn't say that story actually. I may have thrown a bike at someone at the GNC. I had a little temper at the time. Sorry to whoever that was. I'm going to skip over all the Powder Puff stories. I was only 12, so it's okay. So a lot of the cool things current stuff, a lot of the cool things we did. First Supercross event, first Olympic trials. Gary was one of our officials. His photo was up there with all the officials in the bottom left corner. But that was a really cool thing to be a part of, the first Olympic trials. And we worked hand in hand with USOC, USA Cycling, NBC. And USA Cycling and the USOC, they're the experts at scoring. So they came up with this scoring system for the Olympic trials where it was like, I forget, it was like 4 points for a first. So we were going to do three motos. So 4 points for a first, and then it went down from there. But it was like 4, 2, and then 1. You only got 3 points, first, second, and third. 4, 2, 1. I'm like, the race is going to be over after the second race. I told NBC that. They were like, no, this is the way we're going to do it. This is a carom, whatever a carom is. I don't know, it's a road cycling term, I guess. So anyway, they were going to do this scoring system, and I told them it was going to be over after the second race. Sure enough, it was over after the second race. They have 45 minutes scheduled for live TV. So now they're like, well, can we run another race? Can we run like a Tonsi? Can we do something else? I'm like, no. So I'm the head official for this thing. So I'm like, no, the race is over. You set the scoring, it's over there. You know what the points are. So anyway, we ended the race, and it was a very short program, which I was upset about too, because I wanted the trials to air for 45 minutes. I mean, we wanted the exposure. But anyway, long story short, race was over. I told NBC, you're done. They were arguing with me trying to run more races, which was funny, because it's NBC, and I'm a BMX official. And I'm like, no, the race is over, you're done. So anyway, that was a great thing to be a part of, was the Olympic trials. So ultimately, I'd say the thing I am most proud of right now that we've done is obviously build the USA BMX headquarters, museum, and Hall of Fame in Tulsa, which is a tribute to every one of you guys here, every Hall of Fame member in the country, and honestly, that's a goal that I had since 1998, was just to pay tribute to the sport and give a home for the sport and put a stake in the ground for the sport, just to show that we're not going anywhere. So I do want to say just a little bit about what we've got going on at the Hall of Fame and at the foundation. We've done some great things, and I'm just gonna read this right off here because it's pretty cool stuff. So we've completely restructured our foundation. Thanks to Hyper Bicycles and a lot of Tulsa benefactors, we've launched the first ever RISE program in Tulsa. So it's a 6-month program serving at-risk youth in underserved communities. Mentors guide these youth to rewrite their own story as they learn resiliency, inclusion, social awareness, and education. That's our RISE program. Through mentorship all on a BMX bike. So that all sounds great, but the really amazing part of what it's doing in communities is, so this inaugural class of kids graduate on November 15th to a crowd of 500 business leaders from Tulsa. So in Tulsa, we're bringing in 500 business leaders to witness the graduation. And Carrie Sanders from the Today Show and Nightly News delivers the commencement speech at our HQ. So November 15th, we're going to have the Today Show there witnessing the graduation of these kids. This program is going nationwide, and the Terrence Crutcher Foundation was the big supporter of it when we launched it. Dr. Crutcher is good friends with Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey got wind of it and started promoting it. So we had 77 million views day one when we launched the RISE program. So expect to see more of that. That is going to be a nationwide program. Our STEAM programs, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, we're currently in 320 schools affecting 225,000 students. So the STEAM program is a program on building bicycles and some modules, some training modules and stuff. Sorry, I'm going on and on. I'm going to skip over some of this stuff to more exciting stuff. So ABA Ethos, USA BMX is now offering professional architecture, master planning, engineering, and construction services. So we are now building our own parks and building our own BMX tracks. So this is opportunities that have been lost for years and years. When cities would come to us to build a BMX track, we would ultimately turn them over to a design firm that we were friends with. They loved us, obviously, because we were giving them all this business. So anyway, now we have taken that all on ourselves, and we are a full design build firm for building parks, BMX tracks, buildings, whatever the city's interested in. And it all goes back to just growing the sport. We're actually now on the National Parks and Recreation Board. We're on their Innovation Committee. We're educating parks directors across the country on how BMX impacts their community. So there's a lot of stuff that we're still doing, and there's a lot of room to grow. So before I conclude, I have to thank my wife, Amy, and my kids here for putting up with all of the travel and everything it takes to make this happen. Before my wife and I got married, Bob Watson, sitting right here, and actually, Bob, please stand up. Bob Watson, Bernie Anderson, stand up for me, please. Where's Roland Chankin? Roland, stand up. So, these three gentlemen are the founders of Lone Star BMX. They actually created Lone Star BMX together back in the day. So, thank you guys for Lone Star BMX. And Bob actually ended up becoming my dad's partner in the ABA for a long time too, as well. And they've been friends since 1955, 60. So, long time. So there's a lot of history in the room here of just friendships that created Lone Star BMX and the history. So where I'm getting at with that was my wife and I, before we were married, I think it was New Year's Eve, Bob and my dad took us out to dinner and said, okay, you're moving to go to work at ABA, and ultimately that's the most important thing you're ever going to do. And you may miss your first child's birth. You're going to miss anniversaries. You're going to miss birthdays. You're missing graduations. just prepare for that, just plan on that. It was probably one of the best onboardings that we ever had, or that I can think of, because I went in prepared, and I was already passionate, I knew what I wanted to do, but I went in prepared knowing that I was going to be gone. I was traveling, and Amy knew it going into, and the first few years she traveled with us selling t-shirts and helping out until Gavin was born, and then Shane. And both the boys raced as well. So, and actually they're working at the office now, so hopefully in 30 years we'll see Gavin up there maybe one day, because you need to continue, Gavin and Shane need to continue this growth. So anyway, thank you to my wife for putting up with all this stuff. Thank you to the Texas BMX Hall of Fame. Thank you to my parents for everything. Congratulations to the other Hall of Fame members as well. So thank you guys, and I appreciate it. I have to say, Scott and his dad are probably the best announcers in Texas ever. Don't tell Dean I said so.
Won't you please welcome to the stage Mr. Kurt Kasten.
I'm incredibly honored to be here. I know my dad should be up here doing this. He's the Kasten you probably all want to see. And I know I'm not that guy. I sound a little like him. I got his same cologne on, I think, but I'm not him. I didn't do any of the stuff he did, but I was around. That picture of me with the helmet on, that goes way back. And then that one's very recently with Stu and Bob Hadley and my dad. So my dad, when I first off, he wanted me to thank everybody for this. This is an incredible honor that you would even have us up here to speak, and the collection of Rob's out front and kind of making this a Red Line theme thing is just amazing, and he's overjoyed with that. He doesn't travel much these days because honestly his wife is not doing the best. She's in incredible spirits, but he doesn't like to leave her for more than a few hours at a time. But so when I called Jeff and Rusty and said, I don't think he can come, but I can do it. I can go say a few words. They said, yeah, let's get back to you on that. And they called me back. They said, yeah, Kurt, we got this guy. He's a member of the Hall of Fame. He's damn if he doesn't have a dog that says Red Line. And we think we're going to put that guy up here instead of you. And I begged, and finally I got here. So thanks for giving me the chance. That was a lot right there. My dad, he's often asked about how he started doing this, and basically it was, he built motorcycle frames. I don't know how many, show of hands, anybody know that's where he started? Yeah? So he built flat track motorcycles for some of the best riders in the world, and mainly in California, Ascot Raceway. So when somebody asks him how he, why he came up with the things that he came up with, a lot of times he'll say he's just right guy, the right place, the right time, and it's obviously more than that. It took somebody who was already for years making lightweight motorcycle frames out of, guess what, 4130 chromoly, TIG welded, and he just he saw an opportunity for me riding and some of his friends in Southern California that were getting involved in BMX. Kids were breaking stuff, and he thought, I could probably do a better job of that. So he did, and the rest is sort of history. But it's funny, whenever he's asked about that, it's still the right place at the right time. He doesn't consider himself to be the icon in this industry that he is. In fact, like Gene will tell you, we spent a lot of time with Gene and in Texas. So he is, he's, like I said, very honored by this, and if we ever do something in California, maybe we can get him out here, and he'd love it. Love to see Gene again, too. Obviously, we did the summer tours in Texas, and how many of you guys were? How I have no idea, but I'll bet I raced some of you guys on those. Were any of you guys 10, 11 years old during that?
We raced in Stillwater.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. I have such amazing memories from that time. And that's a lot obviously due to Gene. I got to say thank you to him too as well. So, he gets a lot of that here, I know, but he truly is instrumental. I've got stories, and I think he's a robot because he's exactly the same as he ever was. Still as funny as ever, still the same, and I'm so glad to be able to see you again more of these days. That's great. So a couple of the things, everybody's got their funny stories about the tour, so I just thought, while I'm up here, I'll say a couple things. The first thing is that during those tours, my mom drove the motorhome for most of it. Can you believe that? My mom driving the motorhome with the trailer, with all the guys in it, and even most of the time our dog. And can you imagine rolling into these towns with her? And this is obviously before GPS. So we're rolling into these towns sometimes late. One time I rolled up to a race. I think it was in Texas somewhere, but very late. Pulled up. Just so happens my race is, I can see who's on the gate, and I know my race is coming. So we stop, get me out of there, get my bike, get up on the gate. Never rode the track, never saw the track. Took off, happened to be leading, and I'm getting down through, kind of weaved down through a little hillside, and I'm going full blast at this jump that looked big, much bigger than average. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with that? Because it's coming up fast and nobody's in front of me, so I can see what they're doing. So I hit that thing, try to speed jump and go low, and everybody else I see turns right. It was berm. So learn to try to get there early and get a little bit of practice in. I don't know if anybody is following. Well, first off, I've been out of the industry for quite a while. Worked with my dad after he sold worked at Redline for my whole life up until he sold the company. And then when he built, and this may be getting in the weeds for some of you, I don't know if you know any of this, but he built a lot of frames and products for other people, and then also had his own brand casting. And I learned a lot back then. A lot of machining, TIG welding, learned all the skills that he did, even got to realize when I was a little boy why he had that sort of burnt smell when he came home. Once I started doing fabrication, I figured that out. I smell just like my clothes. But I kind of veered off for a long time. We worked together, but I probably wasn't responsible enough at the time or dedicated enough. I wasn't focused. I was, having fun at the time, unlike my son who's been working with him now. So it didn't last forever, and I always wished that somehow we could do that again. The opportunity never really came up, and as we both got older, I think he softened up a little bit, and I obviously got a lot more responsible. And we had hoped something would happen, and through you all, really, keeping this alive, especially, I know that there's a lot of brands out there that did a great job, but there's a lot of love for Redline out there. Any people here specifically Redline fans? I know one out there, but how many people, anybody ride Redlines better than that? So, because of that, because of you all keeping this alive, and because of this love for products that were made back then, and I don't know if anybody follows the prices of them, the collectors know, I know that. So we thought, or a couple other people, this guy, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Dom Phipps, but he's my partner in this thing. So long story short, we've put together a licensing agreement with Redline to reproduce, reissue items that my dad designed and made in the 70s and 80s up till the time that he sold the company. So I am right now so thankful for that because we're all working together now. My dad has an aviation company, Redline Aviation. If you get a chance to look it up, he's an engineer and made an ingenious product for towing aircraft. But him and all the guys always wanted to do bike stuff again. It just didn't seem like there was the right time or the right opportunity. Well, now because of the collectors and the scarcity of these things, we're doing something that's the next best thing. And we're authentically, to the best of our ability, and we're not perfect, but we're recreating some of these items that my dad designed back in the day. I mean, you think about it, he was the first to ever do a tubular chromoly fork. Can you imagine that? That he just did it because it was a way to stop the kids from breaking the old Ashtabula type, and he designed that. No patent, just thought he would do it, and virtually everybody else did that. It's still a design today. First tubular chromoly crank as well. Still, I mean, virtually the same. How many years later? He obtained a patent for that, and I think 82, he showed it to me the other day, he still got it. So some of these things are just timeless, and so due to the scarcity of them, we've got this agreement, like I said, with Redline to reproduce some of these things, and we're really in the thick of that right now. We don't want to bother any collectors, but collectors that don't like it, we're not trying to take that over. We're not trying to put anything in that's supposed to be authentic. It's reissue, reproduction, but done with as closely as we possibly can do to the originals, in some cases with even some original tooling, which is pretty exciting. But most of all, I get to work, I live in Texas now, but I travel back and forth to California a lot, and I get to work now in the same shop, and I have a desk set up that's right between my father and my son. And I don't know how many people work, well, I know you guys do, the Andersons do, but that is such a dream of mine, and even to be standing here right now, like, you know, on my dad's behalf is thrilling, and I'm so appreciative, and just to be able to do that and kind of ride this enthusiasm for what he did so many years ago is just amazing. When I told him about this, he got that look, he gets this look when he gets a compliment or when somebody you know, brings back what he did in the past, and it's kind of like I try to do it, but none of you can see me, I don't think. And I wouldn't do it justice anyway, but it's kind of like it's part appreciation, definitely gratitude there, and pride, and mixed in with it, there's some almost like bewilderment. And every time it comes up, it's the same thing. It's like a look that I know he's going to give, but it's genuine. I can tell it's real every time, and it's because he's still amazed that people still hold him in such high regard after all these years for the things he did. So I just want to thank you all on behalf of him and for allowing me to come up here and speak to you a little bit. That's all I have for you. I won't take too long, but thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Hello, Kurt. We'd like to induct your father, Mr. Lynn Caston, into the 2022 Texas BMX Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
A little bit of a deep thing right now, and if I can hold this up and do it, here, you take one. With them behind me, maybe give a little clap so you can see that. Thank you very, very much.
gonna start inducting our Hall of Famers for this year. And we're gonna start with the women's class. She reigns with a long reign of victories. Carried a sponsorship with Pink Panther, Kyle's Bikes, and the legendary S&S Racing. Also District number 2 in 1987, District number 1 in 1988, Gold Cup number 1s in 88 and 89, National Age Group number 1. 1988 and 1989. She was also national number 33 in 1988. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the very first woman in attendance in the 2022 Texas BMX Hall of Fame, Heather Latimer.
Good evening. Thank you all for letting me be here today. I appreciate it. In 1986, my dad led me up the hill at the gate at Casino Beach BMX. I watched my brother Brian race, but I was nervous about this new journey for myself. I was hooked instantly. My dad spent endless hours coming up with new ways for me to train, figure eights in the street so I could learn to lean just right for those hairpin turns, ramps, gate starts with a customized gate he had built, rollers, and the infamous Veta, which nowadays we call the bike trainer. And I even had a mini track out behind my grandparents' house. My dad was determined for me to succeed. My brother will tell you to this day, and I quote, Heather trained more on a Monday afternoon than most kids did all week. We traveled to Casino Beach, Dallas County Cycle Park, Capital City BMX, Elmont, and raced regularly at my home track, Cowtown BMX. My dad was my coach, and my mom was in charge of travel and sign-ups and videography. I'm pretty sure that camcorder was bigger than she was, but she managed to capture every moment on tape, and we still have those VHS tapes today. We were a team. Everything just seemed to flow. It flowed so well, in fact, that my dad had a custom bike built for me, a cyclocraft bike, from Joe Kyle at Kyle's Bike Shop. It was red and white splatter paint. It's the same bike that you guys see up there. I still have that bike to this day. My son Clayton raced his first ever race on that bike in 2017 at Cowtown. That meant the world to me. In 1989, all of our hard work paid off and I won the Grands. It was so incredible. The feeling you get in that moment is indescribable. Gate 7, no 30-foot line, and Dugan Fennell as the announcer. I don't think I've ever seen my dad more proud before or since. To this day, I still can tell you the first and last name of all 8 girls, 10X girls, in that main event. I stopped racing in 1990, life gets busy for all of us, and I focused my attention elsewhere. Before you know it, it's 2017, and I'm driving down Haltom Road, pulling in at my home track of Cowtown BMX. Except this time, I had my 10-year-old son, Clayton, with me. Porter Gibbons, the original track operator of Cowtown BMX, was still there, still being loud and ornery, but still encouraging and supporting every single kid out there. He announced that day, and he sounded the exact same. I could still hear his voice in my head from 27 years ago. Around the finish line turn and over the double-double. Porter had passed the torch as track operator to a few others, but Craig and Regina Prince are the current track operators, and they have their own special way of making Cowtown feel like home. I brought my son to race, but I wouldn't actually get back on the track until Mother's Day race of 2018. I took first that day, but I wouldn't make my official return to BMX until May of 2019. And I haven't looked back since. Since my return, I've gone on to race and win many state, Gold Cup, national races, and I'm ranked nationally and NAG. I'd like to thank my family for all the love and support they've given me all the years. My mom and my brother have been there for me every step of the way. My dog keeping my kids and my mom keeping my kids and my dogs and allowing me to race out of town. My brother driving me all over the United States, chasing points in his white Sprinter van. Special thanks to my daughter Arden for being a trooper with all the BMX races we attend. It's a fun second full-time job. To my son Clayton, thank you for always supporting me and sharing my passion for BMX. I watched your love for BMX grow, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. Extra special thanks to my dad, without whom I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. He believed in me as a child and continues to believe in me today. He still is my biggest cheerleader and still coaches me from the sidelines. I'd like to thank Judy and Porter Gibbons for keeping Cowtown alive all these years. Cowtown is a big part of our hearts and has become my second home. It wouldn't be there without the two of you, and I'm forever grateful. I'd also like to thank Joe and Trisha Kyle. Trisha is no longer with us, but they both were an intricate part of my BMX journey. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of Kyle's bike as your only girl rider. I'd like to thank Michelle Sheehan for giving me the opportunity for riding for SNS Racing. It was truly an honor to represent the team in Texas BMX. Many thanks to my longtime friends, the Pritchards, Buster, Sharon, James, and we can't forget Jingles. We picked right up where we left off, and I'm currently riding James's 24-inch Supercross frame. In closing, I would like to thank all the ladies of the Texas BMX Hall of Fame that voted for me. Each and every one of you has inspired and supported and guided me along the way, and I appreciate you. I'm honored that you chose me to be a part of something so very special. Thank you.
Our next inductee was sponsored by Mongoose, Vans Protein, Vision Streetwear, Ozone Bicycles, and General Bicycles. His resume is extensive. In 1986, 14-15 expert ramps, state champion. Follow me, it's going to get redundant here. 1987, 16-17 expert ramps, state champion. 1988, master class ramp, state champion. 89, once again, master class state champion. In 1987, he currently holds the World Champion ABA Freestyle Series 2016 Outlaw Dirt Pro Men's Best Trick winner. First Texas freestyle rider to turn pro. Once again, first Texas freestyle rider to turn pro. Completed in 20+ pro men's mountain bike slopes events, finals in 8 events, diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in 2013. Which ended his career. Won't you please welcome the one and only Joel Alamo.
This is way cooler than not getting into the Hall of Fame. So yeah, I want to thank some people here that are really important to me. Start off with the Pattersons. Scott Patterson and his wife. They did all the AFA contests. They got us going, and some of the best years of my life were spent riding those contests, Scott. So I thank you and your family a whole lot. It really means the world to me. I got some friends here tonight that I used to ride with, haven't seen in forever. Bo Kopp is here, great rider. Evan Krakow, who went in, it was last year, went to the Hall of Fame. So there's some really good riders here, and I'm really glad to be here. It means a lot to me. I'd like to thank my parents. You know, a lot of the riders, guys that I came up with, Greg Guillot, you know, like I said, Evan, Saldivar. I mean, there's just Kevin Gutierrez. There's so many people that had a huge influence on my riding, and you know, I just love BMX. As I'll be short with this. Thanks a lot. It means a lot to me, and you know, just keep riding. Thank you.
Our next inductees from the 1970s. Your first sponsor is amazing. I ate at that cafe forever. His first sponsor was Hill's Cafe on South Congress, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
GH BMX, GT BMX Austin, Kuwahara BMX Austin, Powerlight Factory. Currently held the 1978 Texas State Champion at 15-year-old expert. Number 2 Cruiser at Tech 7, number 8 District Tech 4. Number 14 ABA Pro, number 43 ABA Pro, ABA Top 50 National in 1978 through 1988. I'm sorry, 78 through 81. The fastest rider in Austin, Texas. Won't you please welcome to the Texas BMX Hall of Fame, Keith Winbush!
I'm just glad my name is Keith Winbush. It's a little bit unusual. So after about 40 years, you guys actually remembered me well enough to vote for me, and I appreciate that very much. I'm not much of a public speaker, so I wrote a bunch of stuff down. I'm going to handle this like it's a moto. Let's start with riders ready, watch the lights. That's what we did. We watched the lights. Those lights went from red to green. That gate dropped, and you were guaranteed to have the biggest rush of adrenaline in your life. Every race was different. You never knew what would happen. Would you slip a pedal, throw a chain, get the whole shot, or crash in the first turn? I'm proud to represent the 70s in this class at the 2022 Texas BMX Hall of Fame. That's the dawn of BMX, the 70s. That's when it all began. You know, back then, we didn't have BMX bikes. You know, Todd kind of gave the history for you. I think my first bike was, the first bike that I started customizing was just an old Sears bike. First we'd buy the handlebars, then we'd buy an Ashtabula fork, Ashtabula cranks. I remember I had a paper route to earn money. And I wanted to spend the money that I earned on my first real BMX frame. My late mom didn't agree with that decision. She threatened to stop paying me my weekly allowance if I bought that frame. I don't condone going against your mother. But if I hadn't, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today accepting this award. What a decade the 70s was. You know, we were influenced by a guy by the name of Evel Knievel. That's probably why we were setting up ramps, jumping trash cans, jumping over our buddies laying on the ground. I like to think of it as get up and walk it off decade. And I think you can see that in our riders today. You can tell the sport was born in the 70s. Rider crashes, he gets up. He keeps going, he doesn't quit. I learned a lot of things from BMX. I learned in life that there are winners and losers. And I learned that I hate to lose. But it's okay to lose. It feels awful. But you learn from it. Practice to get better, and hopefully you win the next race. There's no participation trophy necessary. I also learned that if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. So I've done a lot of things in my life. I've had a few different careers, many hobbies, but I still identify as a BMX pro. At a recent work meeting a few years ago, we were asked to write down something about ourselves that most people may not know. Guess what I wrote?
Fast rider in Austin
I did, but I scratched that out. And I wrote down that I was once a BMX pro rider. BMX was my first love. It was something I was good at. It was my identity. I left the sport for good in the mid-'80s after my late father was diagnosed with colon cancer. Mr. Alaba, I commend you for being that. like most athletes that retire, I felt like I still had unfinished business. I missed BMX so much I would often have dreams that I was racing in my sleep. But this honor of being added to the Texas BMX Hall of Fame has brought me back full circle. I feel complete. I thank you guys so much for this honor. I want to thank Merle Meniga, the ABA, folks like Gene Roden. You took something that we enjoyed as a kid and you organized it. You gave it structure, rules, and created the vessel for us to do what we did. Back when we were kids, we just took that for granted. We had, we just knew we had a place to go race and have a good time, but we couldn't have done this without you guys. I want to thank Bernie Anderson and the Anderson family for taking everything to the next level. BA, you were just a little kid when I was riding, and I can't believe that you are the CEO of USA BMX. And I'm so proud of where you've taken it. It's amazing. As children we played and we would pretend we were Olympians. Now the kids coming up BMX, they can see that dream come true. I think we need to give a round of applause. I need to thank my sponsors. The late Joe Enix, whose family was owner of Hills Cafe, and he was a manager, and he loved the sport of BMX, and he started the Hills Cafe BMX team. And I hadn't been riding very long before he asked me to join. Joe later opened up what I believe was the first BMX specialty shop in this part of the country, and I rode for him at GH BMX. I want to thank Scotty Patterson. Scotty invited me onto his Texas GT BMX team. I also want to apologize to Scotty because I left that team too early. I believe Joe talked me into coming back to his team to ride a cooler heart. And since Joe kind of gave me my first start in sponsorship, I felt obligated. But I saw what your team did, Scotty. It was amazing. And I saw how Kevin Hall went from second rider to fastest rider to the first. But he moved away to California. Thank you, Scotty. You were a big part of what we did back then. I need to thank Steve Groves and Steve Rink for the Powerlight sponsorship. I'd like to thank, how many of you know Randy Neiman? Screaming Neiman. I grew up with Randy. Randy encouraged me to do BMX. Randy was a daredevil. This guy, we'd pull up to a cliff and he'd look over that cliff and he'd look at you and say, "I'll do it if you do it." I'm like, "You're crazy." And then he'd convince us to do it, and then he'd say, "You go first." But no, man, this guy, he was amazing. I want to thank Todd Pennington. Todd, you're probably wondering why in the world I'm thanking you, but you were from San Antonio, me from Austin, and I always looked at you as a rival, and I hated to lose to you. You were fast. But it pushed me to work harder, practice, get better, so that I could beat you. And I think we went back and forth many years. I also want to thank my teammates on the GH BMX specialty team. Robbie Neely, the late David Tunn, who we lost way too early, and especially Kent Sneed. Kent's a big reason I'm standing here today. We traveled to a lot of races together, and Kent, I love you, brother. Well, I said I'm going to handle this like a moto, so I hope I made it through that pro section thanking people. I'm sure I forgot people. But let's take it to the last turn and let's bring it down the home stretch. Last night, we had the chance at BR's barbecue joint to reconnect with old friends, tell old stories, and it was just an amazing feeling to be back. And I just want to thank you guys for creating the Texas BMX Hall of Fame. And thank you for welcoming me back to this family. That's it. Hope y'all enjoy the
Into the 80s. The fluorescent green and pink were ravishing all of the uniforms. A new sponsor came on the circuit, just happened to be the #1 place to buy a cheeseburger in the whole country. His first factory sponsor was McDonald's. Teamed up with Vans and then ended up in 1989 on the baddest factory team on the planet, Boss. Ended up national #10 cruiser for the ABA in 1989, ABA National Age Group #1 cruiser in 89, also again ABA National Age Group #6. In 1988, he belonged to the 20,000 Point Club. Over 40 plus national wins, multiple national double first place races, and state championship holder. Won't you please welcome to the 2022 from the 1980s, Jason King.
Your family is one of the ones I want to thank because, you know, your dad and you announced for years, just when I was my big years, you know, racing with your brother, which was great. But anyway, yeah, your dad said to me more than once, I'd like to slide in right before, you know, you go up on the gate kind of. So I'm the last one at stage. I'm sliding in there. Your dad said to me more than once. Technical difficulties, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties, I think on 1987 Grands, and because I wasn't on the gate, I was one behind the starting gate, and yeah, one behind the starting gate. But yeah, he technical difficulties because I was late. He saved me, so I was able to get up there, and you know, I think I got 7th that night. Did that on more than one occasion. But anyway, I want to thank just a few people. My first sponsor was MH Factory, actually, before McDonald's. Mike Holland, which is here, and I appreciate you throughout the years. I also think, you know, I guess I started, Don Jolie got me into racing. Went up there, he had a shop down the street. So we went up there, bought a bicycle, and he taught me into, you know, talked to my mom, brought me over to the track. Actually, my sister brought me to the track, and I loved it from there. You know, started out in Sigaville with Art and Mimi Hickey, and then, you know, Dean was doing the announcing there. But really got into it. My dad got into it with me. So, you know, met a bunch of people, and the ones that really helped me most was like Jason Sheely, Max Dixon, Tony Ferguson. If y'all, any of y'all know him, he's huge back in Dallas. But they all worked with me. Treated me just, you know, like a little brother. They were all a few years older. I want to be like them, but it was, they really helped me along. So ended up, you know, Dean took us from USBA to ABA, and then we moved tracks over to Bruton, and then we really started jumping in mid-80s. So it was you know, those guys helped me kind of get to, you know, on the next level. So I started with, you know, Mike Holland, and then went on to McDonald's, and I was 15, I believe, and early 15. And then the ones I like to thank from there, Eric Beltman, because, you know, he was one of those guys 3 years older than me. I was looking up to. He was fast. That's what I wanted to be like. And he kind of took me under his wing and really, you know, helped me through, you know, the next level of racing. And that, you know, went on to Vans. You know, and I guess that was 1989, rode for 2 years almost with them. But that was a great experience, got to ride with the great you know, Pete on Caravage, Bellman was on there. I mean, so many, you know, a couple amateurs, Ronnie Anderson, Everett Rosecrans, Terry Tennett. I mean, some great names. So that was, you know, that was some great years and with some great people. Track operators, you know, Porter Gibbons and Dean Hickey. I mean, those were the two influential tracks in my day, and you know, just like family. And you know, Fort Worth supporting Dallas, Fort Worth. You know, is these main team operators, along with the families in this area, they always rooted for each other, and they're treated like, you know, like I watched, you know, so many of these young kids grow up, older ones grow up, I want to be like. I mean, everyone seemed to take each other in, became more like, it was a family. Several little families in there that do, you know, that wanted to watch you succeed, you know, growing up and wanting you to win at the next race and cheering you on. You know, it's a family unit kind of with BMX, and that's what I love about it most. You know, it is I'm very humbled to be up here and that I'm being inducted today. There's a lot of great, you know, look at those pictures out there, posters, and throughout the last 10 years, 11 years. And to be a part of this group is just, I feel this is a great award. My first award, and it could mean, this means the world. So thank y'all guys and everything y'all have done for me. And all right, thanks.
We move on to the 1990s. Through his career, sponsored by 7 different teams, beginning with Swiss American, Hub and Wheel, GHP Co-Factory, Amundsen's Bike, Big Knobby Squad Factory, and the MH Factory. Yeah. Career wins. In 1983, he started racing. In 85, held the NAG 8 17 to 21-year-old cruiser. In 1994, NAG 6 won 5 nationals in that season. In 1995, national age group number 9 won another 5 nationals, and number 6 in 1996 won another 5 nationals. In 97, finished up the year at national age group number 2. In 98, national age group number 5. District Tex 9, number 1 in the 90s. 1984 through 1999 won over 40 different main events, 4 Texas state championship titles, and won state finals races in every bordering state. Won't you please welcome to the 2022 Hall of Fame, Mr. Jimmy Ball.
First of all, thank you all for this honor. I'm just incredibly humbled and honored to be in such excellent company. I'm really lucky in a lot of ways. In April of 2003, I had a perforated duodenal ulcer, and I was basically a couple hours away from bleeding out, and I didn't know. Went to the ER. They said it'll be fine. We'll fix you up. You'll wake up with a couple Band-Aids, and I woke up with 35 staples from here to here. So I'm 3 months pregnant all my life, but I'm alive. It's not the beer. Well, the beer helps, but anyway. But it almost made my marriage pretty short, and I wouldn't have had the privilege of having my son and all the wonderful things that he's going to do. So yeah, you're in the video now. So. But I'd like to thank also, you know, some of the other people that were impactful for me, and some of them we mentioned on the memorial slide. Like just being able to watch Kyle Bennett ride was just amazing. And just being able to see those guys. And Leland, of course, was a good friend of mine. He was a class above me. So I know he gave some other guys in here, like Big Al, he gave him some shit every couple of photos. So just watching Big Al, I see you back there, man. You can't be hiding. Watching, you know, and getting to watch Big Al and Jeff Pierce, man, that guy could manual forever. So miss those guys. Of course, Al's here, but anyway. But one that we missed that we should add in is Russ Cooper. And Russ helped me get my bike set up when I started to come back into racing. Great guy, ran a wonderful shop in Clear Lake, somewhere in Houston. Awesome guy, and I miss him. But also, I wanted to, you know, like everyone else, thank my parents a little bit because they didn't want me to race motocross. And I said, well, what about bicycles? And that was the next best thing. So I wish they could be here to enjoy this tonight, but they passed away in 2017 and 2018. So thankful for everything they did and all the things they helped me do. Of course, I also want to thank my wife. She was my biggest fan before we got married, and still my biggest fan after we're married. And we're going on 24 years, so I still got a few more races in me, so you have to keep driving. You know, just through the bike shops that have helped me get going. My first bike shop was actually Roadrunner Bicycles in Phoenix. I was riding for them for a little while, and Swiss American, who happened to be the 1982 Jag BMX World Champion team, somehow thought that I should be on their team, and I don't know why they picked me, but you know, it was good. I got to race with some really great people. My first race actually was at the ABA's home track in Chandler, Arizona. It's a fun track, great people. Denny Calso ran the track there, and his daughter Debbie rode for CW. I think she might have been national #1 once or twice. And then Digger, his son, was one of the points chasers. And it was JD Finney, Brent Romero, guys like that were there. So it was really great to be able to ride with people like that. I also, Hub and Wheel, Ed Hamill did a lot for me. We put up a little GHP co-factory team together. It was a great time in the 80s, 85, 86 there. I rode for Joe Kyle, Joe and Tricia. Great team as well. Joe was like, when I was in college, I didn't race very much, and he's like, hey, you want a jersey, you want a bike, we'll set you up, we'll get you going. So really appreciate what Joe did for me. And then, of course, Mike Holland. I see you hiding there in the back too. Thank you for MH. I know when I rode, it was Justin's dad, Denny, that was running the team, but you laid the groundwork, you had a foundation, you had everything else going for it. So appreciate everything you did, and what you're still doing with race ready and all the other stuff. So thank you, Mike. You know, and I can't forget, and I won't forget, the Big Nami Squad and my man Carl Lean right there. All he did for us, the sweetest uniforms I've ever raced in. Sorry, Mike. But yeah, that's right, I know, I forgot. But yeah, Carl's been a supporter for the sport forever and a good friend of mine. And I remember the first time going to 9th Street and seeing Carl ride there and get some of that action, and seeing Taj ride there too. It was great times and many trips down to Austin. In fact, Carl is probably a little more mad at me than most other people would be, because I've probably thrown up in his apartment more times than anyone else's after going to Austin. So, you know, you never know how you'll be remembered, right? But moving to Texas was pretty awesome too. And you know, I raced a couple different tracks in Phoenix, Jam, Chandler, Roadrunner, Peoria Dunes. But we moved to Texas, and you know, we were trying to go between Dallas County Cycle Park and Seagoville and then Cowtown. And maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, we're watching the nightly news. You know, I was just doing some other stuff, and a news story came on and said, Fort Worth man bitten by bear. And I thought, what the hell? And my dad is sitting behind me, and he's looking at the TV. He's like, that's Cowtown. That's the track. That's Porter's bear. And I was like, shit, I gotta get going to this track. I gotta get out there. And I gotta say, Porter, what you and Judy did, it meant the world to me, you know, and a lot of people. So thank you, sir, for everything you did, keeping the sport going. You're a legend. When I grow up, I want to be like you.
No, you don't.
I don't know. I mean, everyone says Porter's an asshole, but he's the most polite asshole. I'll take that. Sorry. That may not have been family friendly. Sorry about that. I love you, Porter. I appreciate it. But then, you know, the thing I want to talk about a little bit, and I was trying to be real short, and Jeff looked at him and was like, shut up and get off stage. is, you know, sometimes it's about, you know, I do a lot of triathlons now, and it's a slightly different, you know, I'm not a fast twitch muscle, it's not much of it left. But it's about, some people are about the process, right? And all the training and all the other stuff you do. Some people are about the results. And, you know, the results matter, mostly, and that's kind of probably why I'm here, and some of the rest of us are here. But, you know, what really sticks with me is, you know, the trips and going places. You know, because like, Kevin Gentry's not here tonight, but there's a story that I'll tell you about if you want after this, about how me and him almost ended up in a shallow grave outside of Salado. So, good stuff. And then Jason Carnes and I traveled to Minnesota with Brandon the Bull Callis. And every time Brandon got out of the car, Jason kicked him in the butt. So, just stupid stuff like that, it just makes an impression. And I can't forget driving to Peachtree City with Mr. Roebuck. And we went through a little town in, I think it's outside of Birmingham. And this is an NWA reference, right? So we got there and I was like, Zach, where are you coming from? Straight out of Bronx. But, you know, like I said, you know, sometimes it's the journey, sometimes it's a process. I feel like that's probably the wrong question, right? Because those are important, but what's more important? Look around the room. It's the company. It's all of us and what we've done over the years and those relationships. So I want to thank the board and everyone who voted for me. If you didn't vote for me, I'll speak to you after this outside. But I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate what Mark and the group has done, especially for building the Hall of Fame. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really glad what you guys did. And like I said, I'm honored and humbled to be up here, and I will close it with that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Earlier today, Brandon Shaw posted this on Facebook. I bet he's worried about what I'm going to read.
No, we are.
There's no photos. In 2004, I started assembling a team for the 2005 season. After setting up a full roster, one of our team riders pointed out a 14-year-old by the name of Denzel Stein. And after meeting him and his family, we knew we needed to recruit him. He was well disciplined, very dedicated to excellence. Very quickly, we knew he was the next big thing in BMX. In fact, the hardcore recruitment of him by another team started a great team rivalry that helped the team become closer, stronger, and even more competitive. After his 2005 season, Denzel was heavily recruited and went to another program. Despite that, he had maintained a close relationship with Sunbrew and was always welcome in the team pits and forever felt like he was part of the Sunbrew team. Some great memories of Denzel was his winning weekend meal at Taco Bell. Team riders will remember why this was so funny. Creating a highway grass fire with Roman candles in Tennessee and lots of winning, especially his big win at the Grands. In that 2005 season, Denzel would go from NAG 10 to National Age Group #1. So at this time, it was awesome to congratulate Denzel in his first class of 2000 class inductee into the Texas BMX Hall of Fame. I know Dennison Smith is going to be watching this weekend with that big smile he has. Ladies and gentlemen, sponsored by Redline Bicycles, National Age Group #5 for multiple years, 16-year-old boys world champ, top 3 junior elite A pro, top 5 AA pro multiple years, turned pro at 16 and became AA pro the same year, an Olympic hopeful racer. Won't you please welcome to the 2022 final inductee for the night, Denzel Stein!
You really talked me up there. First and foremost, I just want to thank God for getting us here today. Man, when I started racing BMX, it really just started with me and my dad riding around the neighborhood, riding wheelies, and it just became something that I enjoyed to do. And it went from that to meeting Steve Veltman at DeSoto at the time. I was 10. And like I said, my dad took me out there and we just watched. And after that year, I told him it was something that I wanted to do. And yeah, and so we went out. And next thing you know, I got my dad buying all these bicycles. Because like I said, I just continued to get more serious into it. And that's when DeSoto came about with the cover over the top. And Mr. Gary Elmore was the guy to introduce me to what was my local track. And like I said, never knew what the sport had in store for me. And so we just raced from 10 to 11, novice. And like I said, I met some individuals like Anthony Russell who talked my parents into taking me to the Grands for the very first year, not knowing my chances of winning. So we went. My grandparents, my mom and dad, we packed up our truck and took Thanksgiving with us. And we ate there, and I mean, we waited all day on Sunday for me to race the final. And man, I won my very first Grands. And so from that point forward, I got on the CMC racing. No, it was Sunbrew. Tuesday Night Kids is where I met Jason Rogers and his family. I rode for them for a while, and that's when I met Brandon. And Brandon took me in on Sunbrew, and treated us like rock stars at such an early age, introducing us to things that I never knew that I would be introduced to at such an early age. Detail. But man, we made some great memories on that team with some great friends and great teammates. Which one would be Dennis and Smith? He was a good friend of mine. And we shared a lot of great memories. But pushing forward, from that point on, I went to ride for CMC. And like I say, as time goes on, I just became a better racer and advanced and winning multiple races, multiple nationals as an amateur, to the point where I got introduced. Chris Ham introduced me to Redline, which was Gork at the time. And at 16, he was like, man, I think you're ready. I think you're ready to turn pro. I had this team that's introduced, would like to, I got this guy Gork, he would like to meet you. And so he was like, but I need you to continue to be the best guy, the best racer, the best person that you are, and let your results speak for, for who you will become. And so I was like, yeah, no, Redline, Bubba Harris, Kim Aashi, Jason Carnes, the roster is huge. So to step onto that team as a pro, was an honor. So my very first A-Pro race, I won. And then we come back to DeSoto. I think I was almost at the cap by the time I got to DeSoto. And like I said, get to DeSoto. I won my last A-Pro race, and I was AA the next day. And I had guys like Kyle and Randy Stumphauser and Mike Day, and just legends of the sport. And I was nervous to race them. And they were nervous, way more nervous to race me at my home track. So the day comes and we, AA Pro, I'm in the main, I'm getting the rollout by Redmond, and I win. I win my first AA race, and like I said, the sport really just kind of took off from there. I'm getting calls to get invited out to the Olympic Center in Chula to be on the Olympic team. And like I said, that experience right there, again, my dad, I get flown out, and he's like, well, you gonna ride with me? And I'm like, no, you're gonna drive. So he drives the car out to me, and I stay out there for at least 2 or 3 years of just racing and BMX full time. And like I say, just my grandparents and my mom and everyone, like I say, it's just truly a blessing to have such a strong support team. Being so young, living in a whole nother state, just to be able to live this dream of BMX, which I never thought would be so big. And like I say, I'm truly honored to have met some of these legends today that were just friends to me then. Like I say, Carnes. I spent a lot of time with Jason Carnes. And you guys know who Carnes is.
Oh yeah.
That guy is full of wisdom. Right.
Is that what they're calling it now?
Right. So spending a lot of time on the road with Carnes, and just watching him conduct himself as Carnes is, he taught me a lot of things. And like I say, Roebuck and Chad Street and Justin Wee and Rusty, like all these guys being at DeSoto, and I'm just around this older generation, but all these guys have so much wisdom, and it kept me so humble and turned me into the guy I was in the sport, being known as the People's Champ. Like I say, these guys I'm grateful to have known these guys and to continue on this legacy for my girls. Like I say, and Gary, man, I remember being at that track to sun up to sundown with Kyle and all these foreign people coming in, wanting to stay at my house before Grands, and we just spent multiple nights at the track, and Gary always opened it up, or just being prepared for us to be out there doing gates after gates after gates. And so, it's just a truly honor to come from such a great track with such great people, and to, like I say, to the point where I didn't even race it to become just wanted to be the best, not to be an Olympian, not to be this AA pro of many years. And so I'm just grateful and I'm honored. I can't thank my family enough for all the support that they've given me over the years. And that's my grandfather, my biggest fan. Unfortunately, he is not here today because he passed. But to have taken this in his honor, the Stein name, and like I say, anytime I wasn't at the track, he was at the track, waiting for me to get there, just to sit there and watch me. And like I say, and I miss him. And I'm so grateful to have this award, and I thank you guys for inducting me. The votes, the people who honor me tonight, I'm grateful, and I thank you guys for this.
That's what it's all about right there. Evidently something went on at the National BMX Hall of Fame ceremony last week because a lot of people didn't show up here because they've got COVID, and it started with Todd Slavic, and evidently Slavic and Cash Matthews must have been sharing the same beer. So we hope they're okay. Cass Matthews was supposed to be here tonight to close in final words. In his stead, Toby is going to come up and share a few words. And then after that, we've got a few more things to talk about, and then there'll be an autograph signing shortly. Won't you please welcome Toby?
Toby Henderson, by the way. So, yeah, Cash couldn't make it, so Jeff told me last night that you guys needed somebody to say some final thoughts. And I used to come here in the late 70s and meet an awesome family and know about Texas BMX versus California BMX versus national BMX, all the things I got to have the privilege of doing. So I thought I wanted to speak and say something about how lucky Texas is, how great of a BMX state it really was compared to some of the stuff I've been lucky to do in my life. But everything I wanted to say was said tonight. Everything you guys said tonight was exactly what was on my notes. So what do? I kind of make it more of a personal thing. Again, you know, I'm from California. I was a national rider. I came to Texas in '79, and I went to San Antonio's legendary, one of Bernie's tracks, right, Lone Star. And we arrived, I'm riding for Raleigh. The bike shop thing in Raleigh was so big, and I see all these Raleigh jerseys and things from when Jeff and I were here. And we get picked up at the airport by Bernie Anderson and the family. We get to go to Bernie's house, and Bernie takes us to a hat store. He buys us 10-gallon couch. Here we are, you know, California boys, our Vans, our shorts, or whatever we were wearing back then, Levi 501s. So he takes us to the store. He buys us these big hats, which were pretty cool. All right, I get to take these things home. He hands us a $100 bill each. Hands us the keys to a white Eldorado convertible with red interior. I don't know if it had horns on the hood or not. I don't know. Anyway, hands us the keys and go, boys, go have a good time. So, wow, so all right, here we are running around town and just tearing up San Antonio. But what the memories of racing in Texas and coming back to Texas my entire career was from '79 to the late '80s. And coming here was probably one of the most favorite things I've ever been. I remember if I ever have to move out of California, have is not the right word, but if I had to move from California to somewhere else, where would it be? Texas. I was always thinking it was a second home. The Andersons were kind of like a family to me. I called Bernie Dad at one point too. But that whole family and what they've done for the sport was what I wanted to talk about. It was said a lot. But when Bernie called me on Monday and said, I need you to be here, I want you to be here, I jumped on a plane, and even though it's my wife's birthday today, we still came. So anyway, but I do want to say that when we came, how we felt and how we were honored and how we were respected as athletes, and then what the Andersons have done to the sport athlete, which you've all heard tonight. One of the things I do remember was coming. I wanted to tell the hat story, but more than that, I remember racing. I remember going to the track, and Bernie set this stuff up to where we got $20 a piece or something, and had 200 kids come to do a clinic, and walked away with just a ton of money. It was just crazy back then. But I remember going home to their house and staying with them. We come home, we're dirty, we're gross, we got all these clothes, and we didn't have much uniforms, and we come home and ask them to wash our clothes, man. We get up in the morning and it was all up in the bed clean. And so we are talking about what they've done for the Olympics and how they've built their businesses. But I also want to say I think it started at home, and it started with the family like that, and what they did made us all feel so good about that. And I wanted to say that, you know, congratulations to all you guys. Texas is a BMX state. Us in California, we don't have anything like this. I heard tonight Gork's working on that, BA, right? Gork's working on some kind of every state Hall of Fame, which is going to be great. But you guys are very special to have, are very lucky to have this sport, have the Andersons in your home state. I'm just lucky to be invited here and be a part of it. But I wanted to say all this stuff, but you guys heard it, and I just want to reiterate what that family has done, how lucky you guys are, and congratulations to the Hall of Fame. Oh wait, one second. I did want to say one more thing, because I'm not a great public speaker. I'm working on that, BA. What the sport itself has done and the discipline it made, I think a lot of people in this room, and for myself as well. I think that there's a huge discipline to ride a BMX bike. There's a huge need and want to succeed. And I think it gave all of us a chance to be who we are, and it kind of fine-tuned us as adults. And we can't think about how that sport made us who we are today. And that's why I really wanted to kind of get the point across, is that BMX is, I mean, look at us, we're all here for such a sport that's so different than anybody else in the world, right? So anyway, thanks for having me, thanks for inviting me, and you guys are really lucky to have this sport in your lives. Thanks.
Well said. Well said. Let me bring up Jeff.
Thank you, Scott. Guys, thank you for attending. I really appreciate it. Sorry we had a little bit of hiccup, ran a little bit late tonight. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of direction, share a little bit next year. Calendar events, we're going to try to open up nominations for January and February of next year. And nominations will be open for all categories. Special categories, we haven't really opened that up. That's something the board's always voted on, so now we're going to open that up. There's going to be some realignment and stuff. We're still working on that. We're going to have a board meeting tomorrow. We are looking for new members, so if you guys are interested, please reach out to any of the board members. We would love to talk to you about it, bring on a few board members. A couple things that I wanted to touch on real quick is Robert Lane. Awesome, dude. Thank you for driving. He drove all the way from California to bring bicycles here for displaying on our red line. Wind was bad, you know, dude, we really, really appreciate it. So when this event is over with, which I am standing between that and your beers, and also going and looking at his display, so I'll make this quick. We got posters. They're all pretty much signed. We're gonna get Dan down to sign them. We're getting him to sign them. We'll roll them up. They're free. You guys can take those. We also want to, all inductees, grab your awards. Let's meet out here. Let's get pictures, because we don't know when we're gonna meet again. And that's it. We do have this room, since I started late, we have this room until midnight, so we can hang out in here. I know the bar area is a little full, so we can hang out in here. They are gonna clean up during that time. Doors are open, y'all just come out, let's hang out, spend some time together, get some pictures taken. That is all I've got. Again, thank you guys so much for coming.
On behalf of the board members of the Texas BMX Hall of Fame, thank you so much for coming. My name is Scott Fennell. It's been a blast. I really enjoy doing this for you guys every year. Thank you so much. Drive home safe. God bless everybody in this room. See you next year.